The 1991 United States half dollar, more formally known as the 1991 Kennedy half dollar, is a circulating commemorative piece struck at the Denver Mint, identifiable by its D. Mint mark placed on the obverse just above the date, and it remains part of the long-running Kennedy series first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy following his assassination. The obverse design, created by Gilroy Roberts, displays Kennedy's left-facing portrait with the national motto, "In God We Trust," positioned to the right of the bust, the word liberty, arching across the upper rim, and the year 1991 at the bottom. On uncirculated examples, Roberts' initials GR appear on the truncation of the neck. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal, clutching an olive branch in its right talon, and a bundle of arrows in its left, surrounded by alternating stars, with the inscription, United States of America, above, the denomination, half dollar, below, and the traditional motto, E pluribus unum, placed above the eagle's head on a flowing banner. By 1991, the half dollar was struck primarily for circulation but saw relatively low public use, which means many pieces, especially those from mint sets, survive in high condition. The coin is made of copper-nickel clad, 75% copper, 25% nickel over a pure copper core, weighing 11.34 grams, measuring 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and carrying a reeded edge. The mintage for the 1991 issue is substantial, tens of millions, making normal circulated examples common and generally worth face value, while uncirculated specimens often sell slightly above face, and premium values appear mainly in certified MS 66, MS 67, or higher, where strike quality, luster, and absence of contact marks matter greatly. Collectors also watch for minor errors and varieties such as off-center strikes, die cracks, filled die mint marks, or unusually strong die clashes, although none are famous enough to dramatically impact average value for the year. While the 1991 is not a scarce coin, it holds numismatic interest as part of the evolving Kennedy series, marking a period when the denomination circulated less frequently, yet the mint continued full-scale production for commerce and for collectors who appreciate the half-dollar's distinctive size, symbolism, and continuity of design. As part of a complete date and mint mark collection, the 1991 represents a typical but essential modern issue embodying the national sentiments expressed in its inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "E pluribus unum," alongside the enduring tribute to President Kennedy that has defined the series for more than 6 decades. Next top. The 1996 United States half dollar, officially the 1996 Kennedy half dollar, is a copper-nickel clad circulation coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identifiable by its P mint mark positioned just above the date, and it continues the famous series introduced in 1964 to memorialize President John F. Kennedy only weeks after his assassination. Its obverse, designed by Gilroy Roberts, features Kennedy's left-facing profile surrounded by the large inscription Liberty, the national motto. "In God We Trust," placed to the lower right of the portrait, and the date 1996 centered beneath the bust, while Roberts' initials GR appear at the truncation of the neck on well-struck pieces. The reverse, created by Frank Gasparo, displays the powerful image of the heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal, standing with outstretched wings and holding an olive branch of peace in its right talon, and a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength in its left, all encompassed by 50 stars, with the inscriptions United States of America above, half dollar below, and the traditional motto, E pluribus unum, floating above the eagle's head on a banner. This reverse continued unchanged for decades, giving the series a regal, instantly recognizable character. By 1996, the Kennedy half dollar no longer circulated widely in everyday commerce, meaning many coins from this year survived with minimal wear, especially those preserved in U.S. mint sets. The coin maintains the modern clad composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, weighs 11.34 grams. measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and features a reeded edge typical of U.S. silver-era denominations, even though silver had been removed from normal half dollars since 1971. The mintage of the 1996 P was substantial, making the coin common in circulated condition, generally retaining a value of face value unless the specimen is an exceptional grade, where numismatists seek coins exhibiting sharp hair detail on Kennedy's portrait, strong features on the eagle's shield, full mint luster, and minimal contact marks. Certified pieces graded MS 66 or MS 67 can carry noticeable premiums due to the difficulty of finding flawless clad coins, while MS 68 examples are scarce and highly desirable. Error collectors also examine 1996 P half dollars for unusual striking varieties such as off-center strikes, die cracks, particularly around the date or lettering, clipped planchets, die deterioration doubling, or filled die areas that blur portions of Liberty or In God We Trust, though none are widely documented as major varieties for the year. In the broader narrative of American coinage, the 1996 P stands as a representative of the modern period when the half dollar, though still part of circulating currency, shifted into a role primarily valued by collectors and hobbyists, preserving the national ideals expressed in its inscriptions: liberty, unity, trust in God, and the motto, E pluribus unum, while serving as a continuing tribute to President Kennedy and reflecting the craftsmanship of the Philadelphia Mint during the late 20th century. Next top. The 1997 D. Kennedy half dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half dollar series that began in 1964 following the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and the 1997 Denver minted issue continues the tradition of honoring his legacy through powerful national symbolism and refined coinage artistry, struck by the Denver Mint, indicated by the D. Mint mark placed just above the date on the obverse. This coin was produced primarily for circulation at a time when half dollars were almost completely absent from daily commerce, which makes high-grade examples more collectible today since many coins entered storage, banking channels, or bulk mint rolls rather than regular public use. The obverse of the 1997 D half dollar carries the left-facing portrait of John F. Kennedy designed by Gilroy Roberts, originally adapted from his inaugural presidential medal. This portrait is surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty, prominently arched across the top, and In God We Trust placed horizontally to Kennedy's right, forming part of the elegant balance between national creed and presidential commemoration. The date 1997 sits below the truncation of the bust, and the Denver Mint mark, D, is positioned just to its left on this particular issue. The reverse design, created by Frank Asparo, features an adaptation of the presidential seal, with a heraldic eagle clutching an olive branch in one talon and a bundle of arrows in the other, representing the dual powers of peace and military readiness. The eagle's breast is shielded, and above its head appears a constellation of 50 stars arranged around a ring of rays that suggests divine sanction and national unity. Surrounding this reverse motif are the inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum, the latter translating to out of many one, and representing the union of states forming a single nation, as well as the denomination, half dollar, along the bottom rim. By 1997, all circulating Kennedy halves were struck in copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, producing a silver-colored appearance without actual silver content. The only silver versions from the modern period were special issues from proof sets, not circulation strikes like the 1997 D. Mintage. For the 1997 D half dollar was relatively modest compared to earlier decades, reflecting the declining commercial use of the denomination, and as such most surviving pieces are found in circulated grades or standard mint state levels such as MS 60 to MS 64, though sharply struck, lustrous, and well-preserved examples in MS 65 and especially MS 67 or higher can be considerably scarcer and more desirable to advanced collectors. While the coin is generally common as a circulated collectible, its value can rise when it exhibits exceptional strike details, fully brilliant luster, minimal contact marks, or unusual errors such as off-center strikes, die breaks, double dies, or misaligned mint marks, any of which can significantly increase collector interest. Though it contains no silver, the 1997 D half dollar remains an important part of the broader Kennedy series, representing a period in U.S. coinage when half dollars had become symbolic rather than practical, serving more as collector's items, commemorative pieces, and remainder artifacts of earlier American monetary habits. For many numismatists, the coin stands as a link between the historical memory of Kennedy's presidency, the enduring motto, "In God We Trust," and the foundational ideals expressed in E pluribus unum, all brought together in a durable modern-clad coin that continues the American tradition of blending civic identity with artistic engraving across decades of changing monetary practice. Next top. The 1986 P. Kennedy half dollar, struck at the Philadelphia Mint and identified by the P. mint mark placed just above the date, represents an important chapter in the ongoing story of the Kennedy half-dollar series that began in 1964 after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy, with the 1986 issue exhibiting the long-standing design created by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts for the obverse and Frank Gasparo for the reverse. The obverse carries the iconic left-facing portrait of Kennedy, based on Roberts' sculptural work for the Presidential Medal, and captures a clean, heroic profile with sharply defined hair and facial structure, surrounded by the boldly arched word liberty, which symbolically frames the president within the ideals he represented, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," appears horizontally to Kennedy's right, maintaining its traditional placement since the coin's introduction. Beneath the portrait appears the date 1986, with the P mint mark, marking only the fifth year that Philadelphia used a mint mark on business strike half dollars, a practice that started in 1980 and continued regularly for modern issues. The reverse design is dominated by the modified presidential seal, featuring a heraldic eagle with outspread wings clutching an olive branch representing peace in its right talon, and a bundle of arrows representing military strength and readiness in its left, while the shield across its breast symbolizes national defense. Above the eagle is a ring of radiating lines encircled by 50 stars, symbolizing unity among the states, with the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, placed directly above the eagle as a declaration of national identity born from many people, cultures, and states joining together. Surrounding all of this are the inscriptions United States of America along the top edge and half dollar along the bottom, clearly denoting the coin's issuing nation and denomination. By 1986, the Kennedy half dollar was produced solely in copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of an outer alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, mimicking the look of silver without containing precious metal, since circulating silver halves had ended after 1970. However, despite being intended for circulation, half dollars in the 1980s saw very limited public use and were rarely encountered in daily transactions, resulting in most 1986 P halves existing today in lightly circulated condition, with fully uncirculated mint state pieces available but becoming more valuable in the upper grades. Common mint state grades range from MS 60 to MS 64, but coins graded MS 65, MS 66, or especially MS 67 and above require excellent strike sharpness, bright luster, and minimal contact marks, making them significantly scarcer because Philadelphia mint strikes during the 1980s often show weaker hair detail, muted luster, or bag marks due to high-speed production methods and reduced circulation demand that left many coins stored in bags or rolls for long periods. Collectors also look for special varieties or minting anomalies, such as die cracks, die chips, double dies, off-center strikes, or misaligned dies, any of which can increase interest for specialists in Kennedy half-dollar errors. Historically, the 1986 P half-dollar exists in a period after the U.S. Mint had already shifted the denomination away from everyday commerce and toward limited distribution, bulk banking, and collector interest, yet it carries forward the deeply symbolic elements that define the coin: Kennedy's portrait representing service and national leadership, "In God We Trust," emphasizing national faith and tradition, liberty, reminding Americans of their fundamental rights, and e pluribus unum, reinforcing the idea that despite many states and backgrounds, the nation stands united, making the 1986 P. Kennedy half-dollar not only a piece of circulating coinage, but a small yet meaningful artifact of American identity, numismatic development, and the enduring legacy of President John F. Kennedy during a time when the half-dollar denomination was steadily transitioning from an everyday coin to a collector-favored historical series treasured for its artistry, symbolism, and connection to modern American history.